The people have spoken, and we've heard you loud and clear. Our top 15 games of 2023 was strong, but you let us know how you really feel, and I'm happy to report you were right. Mostly. Hey there, friends, it's Kodiak here. Welcome to Legacy Gaming. Today, we go back to the board to review your top 15 highly anticipated games of 2023. Square Enix's Forspoken has captured the attention of many, showcasing magical traversal that are central to the game's experience. Essentially, magical parkour. You play as Frey, a young New Yorker that's been transported and stranded in the mysterious land of Athea. In order to find her way home, she needs to rely on an array of newfound magical abilities to move around and battle enemies corrupted by a mysterious force called the Break. Throughout the journey, Frey encounters refugees who come to rely on her to combat the maddened and evil sorceress of Athea, known as the Tantus. In her quest to defeat this evil, you'll open up quest hubs, unlock crafting stations, and use your traversal skills to creatively explore the secrets that Athea holds. Visually, Forspoken looks outstanding, but a game can't stand on visuals alone. What little we know of the story shows us some interesting highlights, but we don't have much more to go on yet. The depth of the story is something we're truly anxious to experience in the new year. Forspoken releases January 24th for PlayStation and PC. Fans of the 2011 Dead Island game rejoice. Originally announced in 2014, the long-awaited sequel, Dead Island 2, is finally a reality. The game has changed development hands since its original debut and was thought to be cancelled on more than one occasion. But the team at Deep Silver Studios set out to make the most intense, visceral, and gory first-person experience possible, and they look to have delivered on that goal, or at least are getting there. Dead Island 2 will let you pick from one of 6 characters, each with a unique set of abilities and personality traits to allow you to try out some crazy and hopefully unique builds. You'll work your way through Hell A, the devastated, gore-drenched version of Los Angeles, searching for the truth about the outbreak and holding the fate of humanity in your hands. No big deal. With an array of exciting quests, unique character customization, and up to 3-player co-op mode, Deep Silver advertises a satisfying gameplay loop with plenty of replayability on your adventures across Hell A. Dead Island 2 is set to release on February 3rd for PlayStation, Xbox, and PC. Bringing a fresh take to the Monster Hunter genre is the next title, Wild Hearts. Developed by Omega Force, the Japanese studio behind Dynasty Warriors, players will take on the world of Azuma. You'll use ancient tech you find on your journey to hunt down and conquer the wild beasts roaming the land. The first thing you'll notice is the clear inspiration drawn from feudal Japan. The team captures this time period well with their architectural accuracy, as well as the iconic samurai playstyle and a zen-like soundtrack to match. What little of the game we've seen shows you facing off with gigantic beasts that are influenced by elemental characteristics, making up their visual aesthetic and ability pool. What I can appreciate about this approach is that the team doesn't appear to rely too heavily on your typical magic abilities. They explore the imagination, but they keep it grounded within the realm of the mystical and ancient, which is very much what the cultural influences bring to this game. If you're a fan of Monster Hunters, Wild Hearts may just be the next satisfying title in the genre. You'll be able to explore the world of Azuma alone or in co-op mode starting February 17th for PC, Xbox, and PlayStation. Indies don't often make top 15 lists when up against AAAs, but there are definitely exceptions to that rule. Hollow Knight took the indie scene by storm in 2017, and Team Cherry has been hard at work creating their next installment in the series with Hollow Knight Silksong. Originally planned as an extensive DLC for Hollow Knight, the team found the game's scope too large and decided to spin it off as an independent title. In Silksong, you'll play as Hornet, who we met in the first installment. The game looks to bring back the iconic art, sound, and combat style of its predecessor, with the promise of plenty of new content and abilities unique to the protagonist. As Hornet, you'll attempt to escape the kingdom of Farloom after being kidnapped. From that underbelly, you'll ascend the kingdom in search of answers and the truth behind your situation. Team Cherry has confirmed plenty of content already, including over 150 brand new enemies, new bosses, crafting, trackable side quests, and a new soundtrack from the original Hollow Knight composer, Christopher Larkin. Fans of the original, myself included, will no doubt be excited to participate in the next chapter of the Hollow Knight story, which arrives sometime in spring 2023 on all major platforms. Next, from the creators at Inflexion Games is Nightingale, a shared world survival crafter. Now, we actually made a lengthy Ultimate Preview video about this earlier in the year, and I'm excited to highlight that because there are so many details to cover. You'll explore this Victorian-era environment as a realm walker after a catastrophic event has taken down a series of magical portals that connected various realms. In typical survival game fashion, you'll explore, gather, and craft your way through the world in attempts to reactivate these portals and reach your end goal, the city of Nightingale. But the team brings a unique twist to this survival foundation in the form of procedural environments accessed via realm cards. Portals can only be opened by combining what are known as these realm cards, and they're collected and crafted along your journey, each having unique properties that, when combined in a wide variety of ways, affect what lies behind each portal. Because these realms are procedurally generated, you'll never enter the exact same map twice. You will be able to affect various factors, such as weather, biome, enemy type, difficulty, and resources. This is a system the team says they'll continue to expand on as they bring in additional content for the game to give players even more choice on their journey. The game also encourages social progression, allowing you to team up and enter a party member's realm you may not otherwise have access to on your own. You'll also be able to create social hubs within a chosen static realm. While we don't have confirmed benefits of how this will all affect things like crafting and shared resources, it's still great to see these social-friendly systems being woven into the core gameplay. Sadly, what we haven't seen is a ton of the game's action. I'm sure that will change as we hit Nightingale's home stretch early next year. The game is slated to come out for PC only with the goal to release by mid-2023. We typically don't cover console exclusives here on the channel, but we had more than enough comments for Final Fantasy XVI to give it a spot on this list. It's hard to believe, but fans haven't actually seen a mainline Final Fantasy title since 2015, which makes the anticipation for this game palpable. Final Fantasy XVI follows the life of Clive Rossfield through his teens, 20s, and 30s. Players will visit the land of Valisthea that's in a time of peace thanks to the Aether provided by the Mother Crystals, but the looming presence of the Blight threatens to bring this to an end throughout the Six Realms. You can clearly see the influences of classic medieval European fantasy. This will be a nice return to form that we haven't experienced since Final Fantasy IX and XII. The devs also hope to capture a wide audience with the game's fast-paced, real-time action combat variety, allowing players to experiment with different playstyles and tailor their experience. We will of course see the expected high fantasy aspects, new villains, and twists and turns as the team leads us through the epic storytelling we're accustomed to in these titles. While there is no direct confirmation, there is a chance we may see Final Fantasy XVI on PC around 18 months after its release on PlayStation 5, sometime later in 2023. After being in early access for just over 2 years, Larian Studios' Baldur's Gate 3 is finally, hopefully, nearing full release. Based on Larian's interpretation of the 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons rule set, Baldur's Gate 3 brings an updated flavor to the game's formula. You'll now use turn-based action to navigate through the game's story. Set years after its predecessor, we see the return of the Mind Flayers, who have once again found a way to travel between worlds and are invading. Staying true to the series, you control a party who all have their own backgrounds and motivations. You'll have access to all the classes from the 5th edition rule set. It's obvious the game will be system-heavy, and the devs certainly give players plenty of agency to solve problems discovered along the path with these systems. Every confrontation is an opportunity to push your luck and stretch game systems like you're negotiating at the table with a D&D Dungeon Master. If you want to sink your teeth into early access, you can do that right now for $60 on Steam. You'll have access to the first act, which is about 20 hours worth of content. You'll need to make a custom character, but you can recruit at least 5 of the classes into your party. If you'd like to wait for full release, the team hopes to make this happen sometime in late 2023. When it comes to fighting games, there's no doubt that Street Fighter is king, and in 2023, Capcom is really looking to take the franchise into the future. The classic experience looks to be there, with favorites like Ryu, Ken, Chun-Li, and more returning to fight, but it's really the game modes where the developers are trying out some new ideas. The most intriguing is World Tour, where players can create a custom avatar and fight their way through an open world. It's almost like Pokemon in a way. You'll run around the world challenging lesser fighters until you're ready to take on one of the legends, the characters you know and love. Beating and training with those legends will unlock new moves and even new traversal options in the world so you can access new parts of World Tour. Battle Hub is another new concept where up to 100 players can meet in a social space, communicate, buy cosmetics for their avatars, and of course, battle. This game mode is linked up to the Fighting Ground, which is the classic arcade-style experience you've come to know and love over the years. Capcom is even giving players the option to play some of their older Street Fighter games right inside of Street Fighter VI, bridging the past and future in one fell swoop. If you're already a fan of the fighting genre, you know how important this game is to the community, and if it's been a minute since you've explored a new fighting game, Street Fighter VI might be the perfect time to jump back into the action. Although, you might have to wait a bit longer as the game doesn't have a firm 2023 release date quite yet. Stepping back into Souls-likes, we have Wo Long: Fallen Dynasty. Team Ninja, famous for their Neo games, brings players back to the Eastern world in the era of China's Three Kingdoms. Players will participate in this gory period using combat based on traditional Chinese martial arts, with an emphasis on graceful movements and offensive and defensive stances. The game will adhere to a linear level-based experience versus an open world to explore, and the devs were intentional here as an open world wouldn't be a proper fit for their heavy story-driven approach. We'll see a mechanic known as the moral system, which we don't know too much about, other than players and enemies will both have it, and that death will be a big part as it's directly affecting how strong you are and how strong your enemies are. It also looks like you'll be able to bring someone along in co-op mode to team up with for the entire ride. The game officially drops on March 3rd for PC, Xbox, and PlayStation. Not much is known about the next game on our list, Alan Wake 2. Sure, it's been a decade since the first game was released, and there's no doubt the game was a smash hit, but can Remedy Entertainment strike lightning twice? The biggest change that we know of at this point is that the studio will be leaning hard into a more survival horror experience. They were pretty clear about that in the trailer. The first game dabbled in some strange concepts, and I think it's clear the team is leaning that way even more with Alan Wake 2. The only trailer for the game shows some pretty vibrant scenes: a brutal crime scene, a rainy street in New York City, a picturesque albeit abandoned town, and of course, our main character. If I had to venture a guess, I would go so far as to say that Alan Wake 2 is probably going to look and feel more like a Resident Evil game than an Alan Wake game. Whatever the case, there is an army of fans anxiously awaiting anything new about this title. The developers have been coy when it comes to anything about this game, but with 2023 right around the corner, I expect new details soon. Another console exclusive, but oh man, it's a hot one. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth promises to continue the story that left fans confused, awestruck, yet absolutely pining for more. Part 1 took the story, known all too well to fans of Final Fantasy VII, and craftily deconstructed it to uncover a faithful yet mysterious retelling of that original story. Even though the entire story will be delivered over 3 games, the director was clear that Rebirth will be its own distinct game, assuring fans it will be more gripping and memorable than its predecessor. There's actually no telling what direction the devs will take in Part 2. Timelines appear to have been altered ever so slightly, and characters' destinies affected with unknown consequences. We're sure to see the return of real-time action-oriented gameplay, but outside of that, the devs are keeping things pretty well under wraps. Like its predecessor, this will remain a PlayStation exclusive set for winter 2023, but will hopefully move to PC within a reasonable timeframe. Insomniac Games is back in the driver's seat for our next game, Marvel's Spider-Man 2. On the heels of Marvel's Spider-Man and Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales, the developers are continuing a series that has paid off dividends for their studio. Why shouldn't they? Both previously released Spider-Man games were huge successes both critically and with the fans. We know next to nothing about Marvel's Spider-Man 2, but we do know unequivocally that Venom is stepping into the spotlight. The one trailer showcasing the game features both Peter Parker and Miles Morales facing down a dark alley, only to reveal the one and only Venom himself. If you're already a fan of this game series, you really don't need anyone to hype it up. The developers clearly have a handle on the superhero genre, so much so that they're expanding into new territory with Wolverine as well. Just a little tease of things to come down the line. Marvel's Spider-Man 2 doesn't have a firm release date yet, but we're confident it'll arrive sometime in 2023. A game that's been on our mind since it was first revealed is Atomic Heart. As huge fans of the BioShock series, we have been anxiously awaiting for another game to explore a similar space, and the Russian studio Mundfish is definitely stepping up to the plate. The game is set in the Soviet Union in an alternative reality of the 1950s. Science, technology, and robotics have helped create a utopian society, but beneath that perfect facade is a dark and twisted reality. The game looks to start us on a pleasant path, but just like BioShock Infinite, what looks beautiful on the outside is surely corrupt and decayed on the inside. The gameplay itself looks intense, and the world seems to be filled to the brim with creepy enemies of both the organic and robotic varieties. What's most exciting to me is the action, which looks really fun. The variety of weapons, the chaotic nature of each encounter, and the overall vibe of the gameplay just checks off a lot of boxes. Throughout the development, we've also seen glimpses of other important systems like the world map, weapon customization, and some UI elements. We still don't know the full scope of the game, how all those pieces come together. With the game's February 21st release date just revealed and a new partnership with Focus Entertainment locked in, I have no doubt more info will start hitting the mainstream very soon. One game that's been on our radar for the last couple of years is Crimson Desert. Being developed by Pearl Abyss, the team behind Black Desert Online, Crimson Desert has shifted gears away from a new MMORPG and is now being presented as an open-world action RPG. It's a high fantasy game that gives off some serious Witcher 3 vibes. Not only are you exploring a massive open world, interacting with other humans you meet along the way, you're also at odds with the world's myriad of magical creatures, many of which we've seen throughout the few trailers the developers have released. What's most striking about the game is the combat, which looks to pull a lot of inspiration from Black Desert, albeit evolve it in some meaningful ways. The action combat is flashy and fluid with a ton of martial arts-inspired maneuvers thrown in there for added layers of intrigue to the system. Being able to dropkick, clothesline, and tackle your opponents is just not something other games have attempted, and it's an interesting way to augment the more traditional slash and bash gameplay often associated with high fantasy weapons. The developers have said story is a driving force in the game. You play as a mercenary that's caught in some sort of power vacuum with various factions all vying for power within the world. According to the official website, you'll have the ability to put together your own band of mercenaries, which seems to be a key aspect of the game, even though no details have been revealed to really back that up. Black Desert gets a lot of flack for being a pay-for-convenience MMO, so I'm glad to see Crimson Desert going a different route, shying away from the MMO genre. Of course, there are plenty of opportunities for them to inject some cash-grabby systems into this new game, but until that comes to pass, I'll reserve judgment and just stay hyped about the potential of a new open-world high-fantasy action RPG. Crimson Desert is now a few years past its original release date, which makes 2023 a perfect opportunity for the developers to pull the trigger and launch the game. If you're a fan of Prey or Dishonored, then you've most likely had your eye on Arcane Austin's next game, Redfall. It's an open-world co-op FPS that takes place on the island of Redfall off the coast of Massachusetts. The picturesque town has become overrun with vampires and cultists, and it's your job to clean up the mess. The game definitely looks dark and ominous, but it's got this strange 80s campy horror vibe that keeps it from being a true horror title. Redfall features 4 main characters, each with their own set of unique skills, some of which tap into a bit of the supernatural. The developers have said the game is being created as a story-driven action shooter, so expect there to be plenty of cutscenes, maybe a big bat or two, and of course some twists and turns along the way. We don't have a great sense for how progression will work in the game, but we have seen a few brief clips of skill trees, as well as a backpack filled with different weapons. I think Arcane Austin is pulling from a few different genres here, trying to cast a wide net and bring in the biggest audience possible. Redfall was revealed with decent fanfare, and since the studio behind the game has a solid track record, we think Redfall is definitely worth paying attention to. There's no firm release date quite yet, but the developers have said the game is slated for a 2023 release. If you're a fan of horror games, then the remake of Resident Evil 4 is probably on your list. The idea is simple: take the groundbreaking game from 2005 and remaster it for modern platforms. For those that haven't played the original, you'll take control of Leon Kennedy as you search across rural Spain for the president's daughter, Ashley Graham, all while being confronted by Los Illuminado, a violent cult who's become enslaved by a mind-controlling parasite. The game is definitely a throwback in terms of style and presentation. It doesn't quite feature the same elaborate cast of characters as, say, Resident Evil Village, but is one of the most positively reviewed games of the series. It's a no-brainer to remake this classic. What's most iconic about RE4 is the action, which fans have said they want to keep true to form in the remake. Slap on some modern graphics, work in some fancy new lighting effects, and of course, refine some of the out-of-date systems, and Capcom is sure to have a winner on hand. The Resident Evil 4 remake is being released on PC, PS4, PS5, and Xbox Series X and S on March 24th, 2023. 15 huge games are coming out in 2023, and it really doesn't matter what genre you like to play. There's something for everyone on the horizon. Whether it's the heart-pumping action of Redfall or the continued adventures of Hollow Knight with Silksong, I have no doubt the new year will be a great time for gamers. As always, if you appreciate our videos and you want to support the channel, hit that thumbs up and consider subscribing. We've still got more games to talk about in 2022, and as you can tell, we'll be busy in 2023, so show your support and help us continue to grow the channel. I'm also excited to announce that Legacy Gaming has merch. We heard you guys loud and clear. You wanted to rock the blue and white, and now you can. Head over to our website, legacygaming.gg/shop, to check out brand new custom designs. We've got shirts, hoodies, and a hat, but rest assured, more designs will be coming very soon. My name is Kodiak, and from everyone here at Legacy Gaming, thanks for watching, and play on.